Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing so far? I hope you are doing well on our second week of teaching and learning. So once again, I am teacher Aldrin and I will be your teacher in English. So as you can see on your screen is the word conditionals, right? So for today, we will be learning about conditionals. Perhaps most of you are quite unfamiliar of the word that you are seeing on your screen. Well, maybe some of you has the hint of what is the topic that we are going to tackle this morning. So before we move on to that, let us first have our attendance. All right. So like what we have done last time, you're just going to comment your complete name in the comment section together with your photo that you are watching this video presentation or you are working with your modules. All right. So for us to be guided with our lesson for today, to tell you, this lesson is actually focusing on the forms and the use of conditionals. So as grammatical features, these conditionals are used in expressing your stand or arguments, which may be helpful in persuading others to move or act and even change their thoughts as an individual. Okay, so with this, you are expected to identify the different types and ways in writing conditionals. And number two, you are going to use conditionals in expressing your arguments. But before we move on, let us first know what argument is all about. Maybe you are thinking of uh, opposing thoughts or ideas with someone else. Yes, if your thought is about it, then you are correct on that. Or maybe when you are against with someone's opinion, then we can consider that also as an argument. So as we move along, let us go back first with what we have learned last time. So maybe you are also aware of what you are seeing or the phrases that you are seeing on my screen because you have answered all these phrases as part of your reflection. But before that, let me give you my thought about models. So when we say models, it is a helping verb. Yes, it is an auxiliary verb that expresses your opinion or probability, suggestion, or your wish on something or to someone else. So that is what model. But what you have learned about models. So let me just read uh, a reflection. Okay, let me just read the reflection of one of your classmates about models. And according to her, that she have learned that models are auxiliary or helping verbs. They may be used in expressing permission, obligation, and prohibition. And according to her also, that we use models for themselves, but they are used in various ways, like, for example, giving advice, suggestion, and conclusion. We can also make guesses about the past. We also ask or give permission and direction. It also expresses unfulfilled obligation in the past. So lastly, according to her, that models are important because it is a part of speech. They help us to ask permission and or when making requests. That was her thoughts about models. It's a part of her reflection. So I will no longer read the other reflections for it might, uh, give us so much time, okay? Or it would take so much of our time in discussing our lesson for today. All right. So let me just give you an additional information about models because we just discussed a few of the models in our previous lesson. But I've also shared this in your uh, chat groups. And I hope that you have learned something about these models that I have shared with you. So we have the should and would. So we use should when we are expressing an obligation. It is more likely the same as ought, all right? Whereas you are trying to express an action that you are supposed to do or to be performing as an individual. So just like our example here, as citizens, or we should do our share in nation building. So there is an obligation being expressed, okay, by someone else that they have to do their share as a Filipino citizen, okay, to make our country better. Next is would. So there are actually 4 ways in using the model would. So first, it expresses habitual action. What does that mean? When we say habitual action, it has something to do with your everyday activity, okay? Your daily routine, okay? These are the things that you usually do. So just like our example here, the old man would often go to the woods. Okay, that is what the old man does. Okay, every day of his life. All right, so it expresses habitual action. And number 2, it also used after conditional clause. So later we will know further about conditional clause. Okay, but I won't be discussing it right now, maybe later. Okay, in our example, if I were rich, I would build institutions for orphans and old people. Okay, so there's actually a condition, okay, being given. So if the speaker said that if he or she is rich, then he or she could, okay, or could build an institutions for the less fortunate people, okay? So that's it. And next is would, also expresses determination. If you are determined on something else, okay, if you want to achieve something, then you have to be determined. Just like our example here, she would do anything for love. Okay, this is very natural for someone who is in love to someone else, that he or she will do everything just to get the sweet yes of the person that they love the most. All right. So lastly, would is also used to express a wish or desire. Okay. In our example, he would like to ask your or for your father's hand. Okay. It's not actually a wish, but it's a desire of a man, okay, to get the hand of the girl that that he wants to marry. All right, so I hope that should and would is now clear to all of you, okay, on its usage. All right, so this time let us define the following terms as we move along to our lesson for today. So there are 3 words that we have to know, okay, such as conditional, clauses or clause, and the last one is infinitive. What do you think are these 3 words? So if you have any thought about these 3 words of your own, then I want to know it by commenting your answers in the comment section. So like what I always say, for those who share their thoughts about the things that I am asking for, okay, it will serve as for your recitation in my class. Knowing that we are in a blended distance learning, so I cannot call you individually. So I think this is an avenue where we can share our ideas, opinions, or thoughts on something else that is being asked by your teacher. So so here, so in my research, that conditional, it says here that it is used to speculate about what could happen or what might have happened and what we wish would happen. So that is what conditional is. And from the word itself, so if you're going to get the root word of it, okay, it is something to do or it expresses a condition. So there is a condition, right? So please take note of the word condition, okay, whenever you hear the word conditional. So just like when you do something, then you expect for something else that, or let's say for a reward, or for example, okay, just like when we were kids, when our parents told us to sleep early or in the afternoon, in exchange of, let's say, for example, a merienda or a snack, then we have to, then we follow, okay, because we want to get the reward from our parents. So that is a condition, okay, a condition, okay, and the reward for that condition is that we will get our snack as we wake up, okay, right after our siesta. Okay, so now let's move on to clause. So maybe it's not about Santa Claus, right? When we say clause, it has something to do with the group of words containing a subject and a predicate and functioning as a member of a complex sentence, okay? So when we say complex or compound sentence, so the sentence itself is composed of not just a simple sentence. So there are a lot of elements in your sentence, okay, that is compressed, okay, in one sentence alone. All right, so it's clause is more likely synonymous to the word sentence, okay? Please take note of that. Clause is more likely synonymous to the word sentence. All right, so now let's move on to infinitive. So whenever we hear the word infinitive, okay, if you have already learned about gerunds, okay, or gerunds, whatsoever it is, so it is more likely remembered with the word to, okay? As you can see on your screen, that it says there that it's a verbal consisting of the word to plus a verb, okay? So whenever you make use of to, okay, before a verb, you have to make sure that your verb is in the base form, okay? So, and functioning as a noun, adjective, or adverb. But let us not be confused, okay, later on our examples, because later on we will not be encountering the word to in our examples. All right. So now let's go further about conditionals. So what do we mean by that? Okay, it's not about the condition alone. All right. So it says here that these are statements, okay, that expresses the result of a particular condition. Okay. It also says here that conditionals are also called as if clause and or when clause. Okay, that is the other term for conditionals. Okay, do not forget that. Conditionals are also called the if clauses or the when clauses. Okay, let's get back to the first bullet. It says there that it expresses the result of a particular conditions. Okay, so in conditionals, there are two elements that we will be encountering. Okay, it is more likely separate. It is usually separated by a comma. Okay, so we have first the if clause, which is synonymous to the word condition. Okay, and the other part of our sentence or clause, okay, is our main clause. Okay, or main verb or main clause. Okay, that is referred to as the result of that specific condition being given beforehand. Okay, so let me just reread our second bullet. If clause and when clause present the condition, okay, while the main clause explains the result. Okay, there are two parts, the if clause and the second part is the main clause. Okay, in other words, the if clause referred to as the condition and the main clause referred to as the result of that condition. Just like the example that I have given earlier. Okay, that you need to sleep, okay, so that you will get your reward. So the first statement that they have to sleep is the condition. And the result, if they follow, is that they are going to get their rewards. But it's not that the thing. Okay, later we will study further about the grammatical structure. Okay, so conditional statements may appear in both affirmative. When we say affirmative, it is something to do with agree, okay, agreeing on something, and negative structures. Okay, it's not synonymous to positive. Okay, it's like you agree, okay, you affirm, and that's it. Okay, we also have the negative structure. There is negation in our sentence. Lastly, in a statement, conditionals may appear first, okay, before the main clause. Okay, always remember that. Condition always appear on the first part of our sentence before the main clause. Okay, but on the other hand, let's say, for example, the main clause appears before the conditional, still the meaning of the sentence remains the same. But there is one thing that you have to bear in your mind. If the conditions comes first, you have to separate it by a comma with your main clause. But if the main clause appears first before the conditional or the conditions, then there's no need for you to put comma on it. Understood? So let's have the following examples. So let me read the following sentences. If you pray hard for it, you will receive it. You will receive it if you pray hard for it. When you pray, God listens. God listens when you pray. So let me just ask you this, what you have noticed with the sentences. Let us focus on the first two sentences. Okay, so if you pray hard for it, so that is our if clause. So as you can see, we have the if, that is our if, plus our verb, pray. Okay, so that is our if clause. As you can see here, after the condition, there is a comma. Okay, the second clause would be, you will receive it. Okay, so where now is our main clause? So we have here the modal will followed by our verb received. So this is our result. Okay, so this is the result of our condition. Okay, our first sentence. Okay, so that's it. So there are two parts of clauses in here. Same thing with the second example. You will receive it if you pray hard for it. So what have you noticed? So as you can see there, so you will receive it was put first before, okay, or should I say the main clause comes first before the conditions. But this time, we do not put comma anymore. Okay, but the meaning of the sentence is still the same, just like our second example. Okay, so when you pray, God listens. So the condition is when you pray, okay? And the result once you pray is that God will listen to your prayer, okay? So these two clauses can be interchanged, just like the example that we've had on the first two examples. So in the second examples, God listens, our main clause comes first before the condition. So the meaning is still the same. So do we have any question on this? If we have, just put it in the comment section. All right, so there are 4 types of if sentences or if clauses. So these sentences are in 2 halves, just like the first and third examples that you have encountered earlier. So next, the if part clauses. Now you have also observed the if part of the clauses. That's the first. Okay, that's the first part. And the other part is where you can use the words such as can, would, will, might, could, etc. So all these words are models that we have learned last week, right? Do you still remember these words? Okay, in our lesson about models, I'm sure you still remember. All right, so that's the 2 parts of our, are the 2 halves of our clauses in if sentences. So let's start with the first type. What do you think is our first type? Okay, so we have the zero conditionals or zero conditional. So when we say zero conditional, it deals with your habits. Okay, like what I have said earlier. So it has something to do with your habitual action. These are your daily routines. These are the things that you usually do, okay? Or something that you always love to perform, okay? And next is, it is something to do with the general truth. When we say general truth, these are facts, okay? Such as laws. Understood? So how are we going now to, how are we going to form our zero conditional in our sentence? So this is our pattern. So it starts with if or when. So we're not always using if. So we can use when as alternate of, okay, as alternate of our conditionals or condition. Okay, plus the present simple. Okay, so when we say present simple, we are talking about the verb. So it expresses present action or condition. So it means the action is ongoing. Okay, or should I say the action is regularly occurring, okay, occurring or action or condition. These are also dealing with uh, actions that are constantly being performed by someone. Understood? So we should not make use of verbs that are in the past form. Okay, we are just going to use the main verb, okay, or the main the base form of the verb. Understood? In stating our condition under zero conditionals. Okay, after that is followed by comma and then our present simple. Okay, so this time, how are we going to form our sentence under zero conditional? Okay, let's not forget that it deals with your habits and it states general truth or facts. So here is our example. Here are our examples. So when you pray, God listens. So this, in this sentence, instead of using if, we made use of when, okay, as an alternate of if in our condition. So our condition here is when you pray. And our result, once you pray, is that God listens to your prayer. Okay, so this is how we are going to write our sentence. Okay, it's not about general truth, but we are talking about the habitual action of someone else, because it's very normal to individuals, okay, regardless of your religion, that we pray, for we knew that our God, okay, listens to our prayers. Understood? Next, if you place it in the fridge, the water freezes. So our condition here is if you place it in the fridge. So that is our condition. Okay, what item is needed to be inserted in the fridge? So let's say, for example, a water. Okay, so if we put water in the fridge, definitely what will happen to it? So the water will definitely be frozen. Okay, so the water freezes. Okay, so once we put it in the fridge, so the result would be the water freezes. Understood? It's a fact, right? And lastly, the road closes if it's already or if it is already curfew time. So this time in our sentence, it starts with the main clause followed by our conditions or the if clause. So the road closes is actually the result of our condition if it is already curfew time. So do not be misunderstood by the examples that I am sharing to you because we can interchange the two parts. Okay, I will repeat. The two parts are number one, the if clause that is otherwise known as condition, and the second part would be the main clause, all right, that is otherwise known as the result. Okay, so now I want you to give your examples also under zero conditional. You just have to make sure that your sentence deals with your habits or factual informations or general truth about anything that is existing in our world. So now let's move on to the second type. So let me just show you my screen. So the first conditionals, what it's all about, how it differs to zero conditionals. So in this case, in first condition, we use it in dealing with things that are possibly or likely to happen in the future. When we say possibly, like what I have said to you, when you hear the word possibly or possible, the action, okay, the future action or the action is not 100% sure to happen or to transpire, okay, and or likely to happen in the future. So there is also a minimum or a 50% chance that the action will happen or not. So this type of condition may be formed by using unless, as long as soon as, or in case. Okay, so these are just a few things that we have to bear in our mind. So it is most common form, okay, its most common form rather uses this structure. So in writing our first conditions, we have to follow this structure. So we have the if or when plus the present simple. So like what I have said, when we say present simple, okay, so it these are actions, or should I say it expresses present actions or conditions. So we are using the base form of the verb, okay, plus, or should I say comma, and is followed by, okay, will plus infinitives, okay. But this time, okay, maybe you are having a question in your mind. Teacher Ren said that whenever we use infinitives, there is always to in it that is associated to our verb. Okay, in this case, or in our example later on, you will not see to in it, but solely a verb that is in the base form. So instead of infinitives, I would say that we can make use of verb that is also in the present simple. Okay, because whenever we use a will in our sentence, it is followed by a verb in the base form. Understood? Okay, so now let's move on to our examples. So we have lots actually here. So in our first example, if you don't pass the test, okay, comma, I'll hire a tutor for you. So in our example, okay, so the first, our condition is if you don't pass the test. So we have the if here. What is our verb? Okay, our verb here is pass. Okay, so if you don't pass the test, what will be the result? Okay, so the result will be I'll hire a tutor for you. Okay, so in the first sentence, you will feel that there is someone speaking, perhaps, or let's say, for example, I would guess the mother is the one who is speaking in the sentence to his or her child. Okay. Okay, so I'll, okay, that's the contracted word for I will. And the verb here is hire. It is in the base form. Understood? Okay, so that is how you are going to construct your sentence or conditional sentence under this type. Next is the student will get a scholarship if he passes the interview. So in this case, we can easily notice that the main clause comes first before the if clauses. That's why there's no comma at all in our sentence. So we have here the will, okay, plus our verb get. All right. So, and our if clauses is in here. We have the if and our action here, okay? Our present action here or verb is passes. Understood? So likewise, on the third example, when I am done with this, I will get or I'll get my car to fetch you. So always bear in your mind that whenever we use will in our sentence, it is followed by a verb that is in the base form. Okay, you should always bear that in your mind. So in our fourth example, I will call your mom or I'll call your mom unless. Okay, so these are the markers, okay, that we have to note. Okay, we have used here unless. Our conjunction unless Jerome admits his fault. Maybe you are quite unsure why there's no if, sir. Why there's no when. Okay, there's no need for we have already used unless in our sentence. Understood? Okay, but obviously Jerome admits his fault. Okay, that is already, okay, our if clause or our condition. The mere fact that he admits his fault is already the condition, and the result is that they will call her or his mom. His rather, because Jerome is a boy. And next is I'll stay in the company as long as they need my services. So on the fifth example, there's no if or when also in our sentence. So the explanation in this case would be the same as in number 4. All right. Whereas they need my service is our condition. Well, the result or the main clause would be that I will stay in the company. Okay, or should I say I'll stay in the company. Okay, so next is as soon as I receive my salary, I'll buy you a new phone. Okay, so again, we're not using again the if and when in our sentence, but it's very clear that our first clause in here reflects about the condition in our sentence, okay? And is followed by our main clause, which is the result, okay? It's like saying, once I got my salary, okay, definitely the result would be, I will buy you a new phone. So there is a promise being given to someone else. Okay, and lastly, in case Ara forgets her bag, I'll call her mom to get it. Okay, so do I need to explain it further? Okay, no need, because the example that I have given earlier before the last one is more likely the same, okay, in structure. Okay, so please bear with the noise that you are hearing on my end as of this time. And now let's move on to the third type, which is the second conditionals. Okay, so in second conditional, we use it in dealing with things. Okay, things impossible in the present and unlikely to occur in the future. Let us go back again to the definition. Things impossible in the present. Okay, so we have to note that in our sentence, that this, whenever we state conditions in this type, it only implies of the things that are unlikely to happen today, let's say for example. Or on the other hand, these are the things that might not probably or that might not be happening in the future. So we form it by using the following structure. So we can make use of if or when plus our present simple, past simple rather. Okay, in other words, it's about it's past tense. Okay, so these are actions or conditions that happen at a definite time in the past, or these are action or condition that began and ended in the past. Okay, it depends on the situation. Okay, so if we are stating a condition in the past, the model that we are going to use in our main clause will be would, okay, plus our infinitive or our verb. Let us not be confused. Sir, why would I use main verb or base form of the verb after would if I am stating a past action? Okay, so let me just put on note also that whenever we use the modal would, it is always followed by a verb in the base form. Okay, just like the will. Okay, just like the should. Okay, and so on and so forth. All right. So now let's move on to the examples that we have here. Okay, I will repeat. When we are going to state conditions under this time are types if things are impossible to happen in the present or unlikely to occur in the future. Okay, so just like the example here, if I only pass the test, I would celebrate the party. Okay, so let us try to digest the following word. Let's start first with the condition or the if clause. Okay, so our if clause here is if I only pass the test. Okay, so that is the condition. So what will happen if he or she passed the test? Definitely, he or she would celebrate and party. Well, there's actually a possibility of, I would say there is no 100% assurance that uh, you as an individual will pass your examination, even though you have reviewed a lot. Actually, I have a classmates back then in college that they have reviewed thoroughly, okay, from back to back of their reviewers, and yet they failed in the class. Okay, so there's no 100% assurance that they will pass the test. Okay, and so with it, they wouldn't be able to celebrate, okay, and party with their friends. But I am not saying that once you reviewed hard, that you will always fail. No, okay, it's always important to review your lesson so that you'll get a high grades. All right. Okay, so these are the things that uh, or should I say are unlikely to happen. Okay, if let's say for example you are speaking to someone who are, or maybe you're hearing all these words to someone who is not reviewing at all. Okay, because there's no uh, possibility of passing any kind of test. So second, I would buy a new phone if I received a lot of money. Okay, so in here, as you can see, that our main clause comes first before our if clause. Okay, so do you think it is uh, impossible to happen? If I were to be asked, definitely not. If I have a lot of money, most probably uh, I can buy new phone. But receiving a lot of money, okay, I don't think it is possible when you're still young or you're still a student. Okay, we're not like Kisses who receives 1,000 pesos for her baon in LaSalle, right? Okay, just kidding aside. So I would buy a new phone. So this is our main clause or the result. Okay, once, okay, the condition have been achieved. Okay, what if not? Okay, so there's no, these are things that are possible to, are not possible to happen actually. Okay, more likely in our situations nowadays amidst the pandemic, and besides we're studying in the public, it's because our parents cannot afford to send us in private schools, right? So it's very impossible to happen, and will not will not be receiving a lot of money now at this point in time, because we're still young, maybe our parents will just give us 50 pesos for our baon in going to school. So lastly, if I were a boy, so anyway, this is not a song of Beyonce. If I were a boy, I would do everything to please my girl. So the condition here, if she was just a boy, okay, I am thinking that the speaker here is a girl, a woman, okay, who's dreaming to be a boy. He would do everything to please my girl. Even though you're a girl, you can, no, it's not because you are a girl, you cannot please someone else. Okay, so you can still please them with your good deeds. Okay, there's no need for you to be a boy. Okay, for you to please the ladies or the girls or whatsoever. So as you can see in here, okay, so you can never be a boy in the first place, even though you undergo a transplant, because genetically speaking, you are still a woman. All right, and she will do everything to please my girl. So this is the result that she is expecting to happen, which is not actually possible to happen in the future. All right, because she was a girl. She was born to be a woman, not to be a boy. Well, I'm not trying to be a racist with, or to be, what do you call this? Yeah, to be not so fair with the gender. I'm a part of the LGBT, and I respect everyone's opinion. And this is my opinion on this matter, and so they have to respect mine too. All right. So that is for our second conditional. So now let's move on to the last one, the third conditionals. So in the third conditionals, okay, it is used in dealing with things or change in past scenario, yielding or leading to different results. Okay, it is formed using this structure. Okay, so we have if plus when plus our past perfect. Sir, what is past perfect? So that is also uh, a type of our tenses. Okay, it is one of the tenses of the verbs that we have to know. Okay, when we say past perfect, it expresses a past action, okay, that took place, or should I say that happened before another past action. So there are two past actions that you will encounter in the sentence later on. Okay. Okay, after that, okay, if when plus past perfect, and then followed by would have. Okay, if in the second condition we don't have. Okay, but in this case, on the third conditions, we're now adding have after our modal would. Okay, plus past participle. Okay, in the main clause. Understood? All right. So now let's move on to our example. Okay, so in our examples, we have the following. There are three examples in here. Number one, if she had performed it, Elena would have stayed in her post. Okay, let us digest the following examples. So we have if, okay, and we have here the past participle. Where's our past perfect here? We have had performed, okay? Had performed. Okay, so we have the two elements in our condition now. So what about in our main clause? So we have here would have, okay, as what I have introduced to you, followed by our past participle, okay, which is stayed, okay. So that is our two past actions in our sentence, okay? Or should I say in our third conditionals. So because in the third conditionals, it expresses, like what I have said, it expresses, let's get back to the meaning, okay? So yielding different result, it changed, in dealing with things or change in past scenario, yielding to different results, okay? There are two past actions that we can observe in here, okay? Because whenever we write a sentence in the past perfect, we expect two past actions, okay? So the first action happened before the other past action. Understood? Okay. So the first past action would be if she had performed it. Okay, and the second past action would be Elena would have stayed in her post. Okay, next, Antonio would have been an engineer if he finished his studies. So our main clause in here is that Antonio would have been an engineer. So obviously, it follows the structure very well. Okay, so we have the would have and our past participle been. Okay, and on the second clause or the if clause, it also follows the structure. Okay, so we have the if clause plus our past perfect finished. Okay, so that's it. And lastly, they would have not missed the flight if they only arrived on time. So what does that mean? Does it follow, or do you think the sentence follow the structure? Is it yes or no? Yes, of course, it follow because the main clause comes first, whereas they would have not missed the flight. Okay, we have here would have, okay, plus our past participle, which is missed, okay, and our condition or the if clause, we have ifed, and our past perfect here is arrive. So all these three sentences that we've had, okay, expresses two past actions very obviously, okay, and it follows the grammatical structure under the third condition. All right, so do we still have any more questions, okay, on the following types that we have discussed for today? So if none, okay, or should I say if there is, please put all your questions in the comment section. So as for generalization, like what I have said, okay, about conditionals a while ago, okay, when we say conditionals, we can it can be used in expressing your stand or your arguments as an individuals. Okay, let's say for example, you are an advocate of no smoking campaign. Then you have to you you are, let's say for example, advocating uh, this kind of platform. Definitely, what would be your stand? Okay, how are you going to uh, or express your stand on it? So let's say, for example, um, if you are going to smoke, you will die early. Okay, so that's how it's it. So you state the condition. If you smoke, then what will be the result? Definitely, you will die. So that's how are you going to uh, express your point, knowing that you are an advocate of no smoking campaign, and so on and then so forth. So apart from that, expressing your arguments is helpful in presenting one's reasoning to change one's point of view in a particular topic or issue. In other words, this is your way in uh, inviting them or encouraging them to be on your side, to believe on you, to change their practices, okay, about the things that they're not supposed to be doing, and be of change, okay, be a part of change, okay, and so on and so forth. So conditionals may be helpful in persuading others to move or act and even change their thoughts. That's why it's very powerful when you learn of the conditionals. All right. So questions, clarifications. So if there are, like what I have said earlier, just write it down or comment it in the comment section for me to know. And I will try to answer all your queries about the topic that I am discussing as of this moment. So now let's move on to our learning tasks. So you only have uh, 6 activities or tasks to be working with. Under introduction, you are going to do learning task number 1. It's on page 18. So what you are going to do is that you are just going to share your thoughts by filling each box with your personal responses. So you can write your answer in your notebook or on a pad paper, or you can also put your answer or type your answer using Microsoft Word or whatever platform you want to use. Okay, it depends on your convenience. All right, and next to it is learning task number 2 and 3. You can find it on pages 19 and 20. So what are you supposed to do in learning task number 2 and 3? So basically, you're just going to choose the letter of the correct answer. So you can just write the letters of your answer. There's no need for you to rewrite it. Okay? But if you're using Microsoft Word, you can copy and paste it. there, and then just highlight the letter that you pick for each number. So in number 3, you are just going to answer the following questions. Okay, there are 5 questions that you need to answer. Understood? And on their engagement phase, okay, you're going to answer learning task number 5 on page 23. So it's actually a dialogue, okay, that uses conditional sentences. So there's already there is a pattern already. You are just going to complete it by writing or supplying the most appropriate conditionals. So you're just going to write your answer in your notebook or pad paper or whatever um, uh, sheets you want to put all your tasks on. And we also have here in the assimilation phase as part of your performance task. So you are going to do learning task number 8. Okay, so what are you going to do there? So in learning task number 8, okay, you are just going to identify what is being asked, okay, in each item. Okay, choose the letter that corresponds to your answer. Okay, that is self-explanatory already. And for learning task number, should I say, as for your performance task, okay, you are going to express your point of view. Okay, it's a POV activity. So you are going to express your point of view on the topic, bringing back the face-to-face classes for this school year. So in your weekly home learning plan, you will see the following examples therein. So it will serve as your guide in working on with your POVs or your point of view activity. Okay, I am not saying that you are going to copy it and then supply the missing part. You are going to write your own point of view activity. And the last part will be your reflection. So let me just bring you the slide on your screen. Okay, so in your reflections, you are just going to answer the following. I learned that conditionals are. Next, the 2 part of conditionals are. And next, the 4 types of conditionals are. And they are different from each other by what? How do all these types differ, okay, to one another? And lastly, conditionals are used to show. Show what? Okay, so let me know your thoughts about conditionals by answering your reflections. So your reflections, okay, will be posted in our Facebook group. Okay, so I will be waiting for your answers in the comment sections. So I think this is the end of my slides. And let's call this a day, everyone. I hope that everyone learned from our lesson about conditionals. So thank you for listening. See you next week on our next lesson about communicative styles.